Welcome everyone to the Nursing Now podcast. I'm your host, Janelle McSwiggin, and I'm really excited about my guest today. I have Klara Tselenchuk on today, and she has like the coolest nursing job I've ever heard of. So when she told me what she did, I was like, please come on and enlighten everyone because it just seems so fun. I love the outdoors. It has to do with the outdoors, and she's really bringing therapy and nursing to a whole new heights here. So I'm really excited. Clara, thank you for coming on.
Hi, thanks, Janelle, for having me. I'm really excited.
Awesome. So you are a nature connection coach and a forest therapy guide. Do I have that right?
Yep, that's right.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah, I know. It actually sounds good when you say that.
Yeah, yeah. And so it ties into you're actually a board certified nurse coach, right? That's like the overarching term for one of
Yep,
the certifications that you have.
yep, that's the initial one I did.
Very cool. And then I saw you are also a certified forest therapy guide as well.
Yep, yep.
Cool.
I did that recently about well, yeah, 6 months ago, completed my training.
Very cool. And I can totally understand how it all ties in together. And then I think you're also like wilderness, like safety trained as well.
Oh, yeah. So this is a requirement as part of the forest therapy guide. You have to be a wilderness first aid trained because you could basically outdoors and you need to be aware of what's going on. People can get, allergic reactions. They can fall. They can like sprain their ankle, whatever. So yeah.
So why don't you explain exactly what it is you do? Because I think this is so new to so many different people.
Yeah, of course, I'd love to. It's actually kind of ties up a little bit for my history, how I ended up doing this. So I'd like to kind of share a little bit about that. So geez, I guess my whole journey goes back to like I want to say like 4 years. Was it 4 years? It's almost five now. When during COVID, I was really working in the ICU, and I can tell you later about that, but I got really burned out, really mentally exhausted, and I had to quit. And I went down this mental rabbit hole. And while I was getting myself out, a big thing that helped me was being out in nature. So just then, well, at that point, I did my nurse coach certification. But as I was going through everything, I realized that, like, hey, I really want to be outside in nature. I don't want to do one-on-one coaching on Zoom all the time. So I started bringing my people out to nature, and we were doing coaching session outside, so one-on-one coaching sessions outside. And then I've learned about forest therapy guiding, and I was like, man, what is that? That sounds like so good. And it's a practice. It's a practice that really originated in Japan in the 1980s, and it was came in a time of the Japanese was having like a health crisis because a lot of people were moving away from the uh, basically tending the land, living outside, being outdoors a lot to a very tech-based world where they were in front of the computer, many working hours, they get where they were very sedentary. So what started happening is there was a lot of chronic illnesses that started showing up. There was like a lot of cancer, spike in a lot of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, suicidal rates were really, really high. And they were like, what is going on? Like, we need to figure out what's going on. So they ran a bunch of research. And one of the things that they checked was what happened to people when they exposed to nature and especially forests. And there's a lot of research around it, but it really shows that when we expose to natural environment, our body relates to it and it basically responds to it. So like our when we slow down in nature, our whole body slows down. So our blood pressure goes down, the heart rate goes down. We're really tuning into the moment. Getting more like clarity. We can get like creative if we have ideas, like just things open up for us. And that's kind of like in a nutshell. But they created those paths specifically in Japan that people can go, and they prescribe nature as a healing modality, really. So, um, you know, moving forward with that, this practice overall is about a 2.5 to 3 hours. And there's a sequence to it to basically helps us to dive in to it. So you start from like, oh, I just came, I was rushing the kids and everything, and you have a sequence that allows us to really just be, there's no really any, it's not an assignment, there's nothing there. There's just, you basically work with the forest and what they have. And what's beautiful about this practice is that forest therapy is that the forest is the therapist and the guide is opening the doors, which I think it's so beautiful because it takes away so much from us as like, oh, I'm here to heal you, but I'm not because you have everything you need and we are here in partnership with the forest. So I really love, love, love this. So I've been really um, loving this practice. And the more I share it, the more I love it.
Ah, I love it. I can hear the passion in your voice, and I resonate with it on so many levels. I'm definitely an outdoors person. I stargaze all the time. I'm skiing all the time. We camp all the time. And just the moment where you just get outside and the air is just crisper and it just time kind of just slows down and you do like resonate a lot more in that moment. Like my thoughts are always like deeper and everything. So I totally understand what you're saying. And I can see how people could be more like introspective in those moments. And when we're so overstimulated and bombarded with like either social media or even like billboards or like the honking of cars and like your senses are going like all over the place and especially like nurses even from like alarm fatigue and everything like that like being able to step out into like the stillness of the forest and like hearing like the birds or like the rushing of like water around you is just like such a different world. So I can definitely see how that can be a positive impact for your clients and also for the nurses listening.
Oh yeah, 100%. Actually, now that you're saying that, I also was thinking about the fact that I was trying to incorporate this in the hospital setting. So I got some twice already. It was case managers, nurses as well. And we got outside. We have a healing garden in this in the hospital, and we went out. One group was an hour and a half. The other one was shorter. It was like 20 minutes because that was kind of like on the go. But it was really good and people can really sense the effect of that. Like nurses really need that. People don't realize how much they need that until they do, until they're out there and doing it. Like, wow, I really needed that. And like I did that just for like 20 minutes. Wow, and I feel so better. So it's great.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely resonate with that too because I also don't know that I need that until I'm out there, or I don't like know the juxtaposition until I'm out there. Even like taking like a walk in my backyard. I have a really big backyard. It's a really good like pause. Um, I really liked how you said that COVID was a turning point for you. I think so many nurses listening will definitely resonate with that. COVID was a dark time for a lot of us, and I know that that really sparked my entrepreneurial journey as well. So I think that that's really cool to see someone like years down the line, like myself, that saw an issue in COVID and what was going on and in, I guess, like their own like thoughts and like burnout and like whatever else was happening. And instead of staying where they are, found an opportunity in something else that aligns with their interests and aligns in such a beautiful way that is so clinical without being like PPE, gloves, and medication clinical.
Yeah.
But I love that you brought into like the evidence-based practice to support that as well. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because it's so, I guess, supportive in evidence without being like in your face, like nursing.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it has a lot of evidence-based practice, and that's also like a thing that I wanted to bring in because I was like, when I left bedside, I was thinking about like, am I still a nurse? Like, what kind of nurse am I? This is the only thing I know how to do. Um, because this is the only thing I knew how to do. I was like a bedside nurse. I was doing ICU, and I left. And I was like, well, now what? What's waiting for me next? And and then when I found nurse coaching and I found forest therapy, I was like, this is beautiful because I really, when I left feeling like I am not providing the care that I want to provide my patients, I am not, I'm not like, I'm doing what I need to be doing because I've been told that this is what I need to do, but there must be a different way. And I think what COVID highlighted for me was how many chronic illnesses are not popular, not the word, but like it's huge because a lot of people that came so sick to the ICU and really died from COVID were really people who had a lot of chronic issues. And I was like, well, how do we really treat this stuff? So that kind of trickled me to that path. But also it was it was uh me wanting to give care the way that aligns with me, but it was also me wanting to be uh the person that I want to be. So I want to provide care that I want in the way that I want to provide it. Kind of thing. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. I think that a part of medicine is that it's so wide, and it doesn't traditionally mean medication, right? Because in nursing school, I was taught to treat the whole body. I wasn't just taught the traditional medication route, but then you get put out into the world of nursing, and that's the funnel that everyone goes down. So I don't think it's like wild to think that there's like another path for nurses that are struggling with the like heavy medication part. I also want to bring it back to when you said that you were struggling with leaving the bedside and thinking like, what type of nurse am I if I'm not at the bedside? I hear that all the time, like over and over and over again from nurses. And I hear it from nurses even talking about me because I've reduced my role and I'm a medical writer now. A lot of people question if I have a nursing license. A lot of people like flat out say I'm not a nurse because I'm not touching patients or I'm not at the bedside. A lot of people will say that's not nursing. And I've actually looked up the ANA definition of nursing, and it says nothing about touching patients at all. It just says to like heal and support like the population as a whole. It's a really good paragraph. I won't read it here because it's very dry, but it did like have me really think about it. And I was like, am I like that's my identity? We are nurses.
Mhm.
Like that is like so true to our core. So I think a lot of people on here definitely struggle with the thought of being unhappy in the traditional like role of a nurse, like clinically, but also struggle with leaving that role and what does that mean for their like identity that's like so true to their heart. So thank you for being open and sharing that. I think a lot of people resonate.
Oh, yeah. Oh my goodness. 100%. That's like even something, even now, sometimes things will kind of pop up because you're so trained to be a certain way. Sometimes I kind of go back to that time, even now being out for so long, but sometimes it does throw me back to this point. I was like, oh, am I still a nurse? In low days that I don't feel like great in my business, I'll be like, oh, maybe I should just go and do bedside. But there is something beautiful that happens when you leave and you allow yourself to open this door for something new to happen. And yes, it's scary. And yes, it will take time and it's unknown, but this journey is so beautiful because you're basically curving a new self. And it's so fun. Like I think this is really helped me like get out of the space where I was because I felt like I need to create the person I want to be and not rely on all the things that I think I need to be or somebody told me. So it kind of goes together.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I like how you mentioned that the bedside is always there. Like, could I go back to the bedside? Yeah, you can always pick up a per diem shift. So when people are really concerned about leaving the bedside and leaving like what they think is their identity behind, one, it's not leaving your identity behind, you're just using it in a different facet. But two, the bedside will always be there. And if you don't want to leave it entirely, that's okay. You can still have one foot in the door and one foot out. There's no rules to being an entrepreneur. But going off of another thing you've said, I have grown so much as a person owning my own business. But it really like pushes you outside of that comfort level and it shows you that you're a really strong, capable person that sees these problems in these areas to grow and that you can like overcome them in a way that I wasn't seeing at the bedside. Like at the bedside, I was like, oh, I can just slug around for 14 hours in a row and just like not die today. Like, good for me. But this is like different. This is like invigorating, like something that I've like never felt before. So it's nice to hear like another entrepreneur that also feels that excitement in like carving their own path, like you said, and owning their own business.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%.
So you started off like health coaching, which I think is so interesting because I was really ignorant a while ago and I really thought it was just like diet and exercise for health coaching. So I am fascinated when I meet more health coaches that are doing incredible things in new spaces because I just feel like so enlightened every single time. And then it sounds like you transitioned into forest therapy. So is that right? You did the health coaching first and then the forest therapy?
So, so nurse coach is a certificate that you get to do. You have to, certified nurse coach is similar to what we would do if we do med surg nurse or ICU nurse, pediatric nurse. You guys basically specified, but what it's about, I think 6 or 7 months training. There's different programs that offer this, but they are looking at the human in the holistic way, but a big part of the training is also yourself. You're basically going through this process yourself. So there's, a lot of emphasis on on mindfulness, and there's emotional, there is like environmental, there is physical, there is diet, there is exercises, there is you know, cessation of alcohol or whatever, different drugs. So it's overview, it's a very vague concept. So a lot of nurses that get out of this certificate, they start very vague. They just basically say like, hey, you just go and start coaching whoever's willing to be coached. Because at that time, you don't know who is your ideal client and who you would want to coach. And like you basically don't have a lot of knowledge. You're basically thrown out there. And when you start coaching people, you slowly start finding that some people attract to you more than others, or you are attracted more to other kind of people. So then you slowly start to adjust your offers. And that's how a lot of people find their little niches because they just go with the flow, they like water, like a stream. They go where it takes them, and they go to little cracks. And if that does not go, they go back. So it's a lot of try and error, but again, this journey is fun. So that's what happened to me, and that's how I ended up because I was coaching. My biggest thing was a lot about mental health and supporting people to overcome a lot of barriers that they're struggling with. And I've noticed that a lot of people are uncomfortable going outside, actually. And so that was another thing. I loved going outside, and I was like, no, I have to get these people out. So, so this was just one of the things that came together. Like, I love it. They need it. That's perfect. So it's just all aligns. And that's how I came up doing this.
No, I love that. That's actually really similar to medical writing. You just kind of like bop around. You're like, oh, like this deliverable isn't like quite what I like, but I tried it. I have the experience. But maybe this one's a little bit better. So that's cool to hear that health coaching is a lot like that. So when you were talking about the program real quick, does the program, is it like a general one, like how nursing school was really general, or do you find different programs that are niched down? Like, would one be on like stress and like another one on like nutrition, or are those things encompassed in pretty much every program?
Yeah, I want to say they all encompassed in
Mhm.
the same program. It is kind of one general, but then if you want, it would be like maybe taking something like a CEU, that extra knowledge on specific things. So if you want to dive in about some people really into essential oils, for example, or soaps or whatever, they dive into this, and there's communities. That's what's beautiful about that too, that let's say you're a nurse that you're leaving bedside or something and you're like, I don't know what to do. You just find people that do different things, and you learn from these people, and you see if this is your people, and you just create new communities. And this is what happens after people leave this like big pool of certificate. I'm done. I'm in the field. Now what? I'm just gonna talk a little bit with this person, talk a little bit with that person, see what these people do, and then you find your way. You find whatever speaks to you. Just have to be open to new things.
Awesome. I love that it sounds like it's like a community-based thing, like you graduate with people and you kind of stay in touch. I love that you explain that you can go further into certain specializations through CEUs. Like, thank you so much for explaining that. I see this term all the time and it's such like an up and coming term. I think a lot of people have become really wary of the healthcare in a traditional sense, and they're looking for authoritative people like nurses to support them in holistic ways. So, very cool.
I think there's also something special about a nurse being a healthcare coach, right? Because a health what was the term? Health A nurse coach is different than just like a coach because a nurse comes with a background with a medical background, so she brings like a lot of knowledge, a lot of this like intuition. And I think that people really need it, like just this compassion. Like nurse is just a different breed. That's it.
Yeah, no, we definitely are. We have a lot of empathy. But we also know when we can like push our clients to get their goal covered, like in care plans. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we've definitely like walked through their lows, we walked through them with their highs. So nurses definitely are like a really particular breed. And the more health coaches I talk to, the more I understand exactly why they're health coaches. Like I can just like so see them in their role, like supporting the general public and like what they're doing. I just had a burnout coach on a couple of weeks ago, and she was such a peach. She was so enthusiastic about what she's doing, which is so nice, right? That these nurses that were really dejected by the healthcare system can just be totally rejuvenated with something that's within our scope if you just find your spot somewhere else.
Mm. Yeah, 100%. Kind of what comes to my mind when I'm hearing you talking about it is that we are, we are feeling so burnt out at some point in our career, and we just feeling like we don't really have a lot of control. But when we go and we search for it and we make this negative thing that, kind of push we instead of coming, letting us push, letting this push us down, we basically rise up from that. So we're this is a building block. So if we look at this as something that like, man, I've been through this, there must be a reason. There's so many people, other people struggling. Like I have to help them and I have to speak up and I have to say my truth because there's somebody out there that needs to hear it. Because I remember when I was like in my low, I did not have anybody and I felt like very betrayed by the system. And I was basically like spit it out. And I know it was COVID and everybody were busy, but nobody like ever called or checked on me. And I was like, man, I'm just a number in this whole system. So I was like, you know what? Things have to change. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I felt the same way when you said I'm just a number. Yeah, totally. It just dawned on me. I'm like, they don't care. They don't care at all. I'm just like a cog in the machine. I'm like nurse number 68, just here for her job. They don't care if I'm happy. They don't care if my feet hurt. They don't care when my last break was. But when I'm owning my own business, I'm setting my hours, I'm checking in with myself, and I know the boss cares because I'm the boss. And I'm sure that's the same with you. So, for people that aren't quite sure what happens during a guided nature therapy walk, so it's not like a hike or any like typical nature walk. You're really trying to like um absorb like your surroundings with all of your senses, and you're focusing on like mindfulness, and you might like sit down, which is very atypical for like walks and hikes. Usually it's like go, go, go. And I also saw that there's some sort of a closing ceremony, which I thought was very like beautiful and kind of reiterates that it's not just like a stroll in the park with a like traditional nurse, that it's this like really beautiful and impactful moment in these people's lives where you're setting like I'm guessing like intentions or something like that. So am I super off here or
No, not super off at all. It is so all right, so it is like it's always kind of funny when I talk about it. The whole training, just so you know, it's about a 6 months training. Okay. So you were like, wow, that's a lot of time. And when you actually do the practice, like, why do you need to study so long to do this practice? But the beauty in this is that it takes time to sink in, to become, to really be working with the forest, to not just dropping yourself in and be like, okay, all right, well, this is what we're gonna be doing. So forest therapy is a 2.5 hours to 3 hours, and it's meant to really allow you enough space, enough time to really sink in. Yeah, so there is a sequence to it. So the beginning when we meet, there's a little bit mini introduction that we go through and I explain about what that is, what's the benefit, and then we do mini introduction of the people and everybody share what their intention is. And then I offer invitations, and those invitations are just a way for us to engage in different ways with whatever the forest has to offer for us and the say at the day, at the time, at the space, because it can be very different. And I just kind of go off what I'm receiving. So I'm working with the forest and the land, whatever comes up with us. And so there's a sequence of those invitations. It depends on how long we do it. That's the amount of invitation we do. Each invitation is about a 15 to 20 minutes long. And it really, the goal is that there's no goal. The idea is just to be and allow your body to tune to whatever it is needs to be. So there is no, people don't feel pressed to do anything. They just go out, and then in between those invitations, we do little sharing rounds. And all I ask them is, what do you notice? And you can see a range of exploration that people share. And it's so beautiful because some people will go really deep into like emotions and things. And this one, the forest talked to me and the tree said that. And other people will be like, I just saw yellow leaves, and it's beautiful both ways because both worlds, like when I'm hearing somebody talk about it this way, I was like, wow, that's actually pretty deep. So then my deepening happens too, so I'm affected by what other people around me saying in a good way, like opening the world to me to see things differently. So there's a lot of beautiful things happening in this process. And the last one is a ceremony, we call it forest tea. And we are basically whatever is out there, it's a little forage. I'm foraging maybe. So far, I've been doing mostly like evergreen trees. I would do like spruce tea or like a pine tree. I did some berry tree when it was available. I did some lavender. So we just come together and we share tea, and we share tea with the land, and we share some snacks, and we just talk about the experience. And it's kind of like bringing us back to the real world and it's beautiful. It's really beautiful to see how people who don't know each other before just connecting in the different ways, and it creates connections, and it creates people telling me like weeks after they do the experience, they still experience the benefits of it. So it's it's pretty powerful.
It absolutely sounds powerful, not only for the people that you're coaching, but also for you as the health coach. So, I mean, I can't really think of a more rewarding career and still within the nursing scope. Like, it's so cool. So, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And you mentioned that you could do this remotely as well, too. You can do this virtually. Yeah, so we're gonna have a coupon code in the show notes as well if anyone's interested, and her website's gonna be here as well. So I think everyone would really benefit from this, especially for some stressed out nurses. So that was really, really generous. And I hope that everyone takes advantage of it because, like I said, I think it will be quite the experience for everyone.
Thank you, Janelle. Yeah,
All right, everyone, that's all the time we have for today on the Nursing Now podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today. This was really, really informative, and I know that everyone got a lot out of this. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today. I know it was a hectic day for you.
thank you so much. I was really glad to be on your podcast. I'm very excited to share this with other people, and I really hope that other nurses will get this nudge to really tapping into themselves and explore. Just explore. You have nothing to lose. Nurses will always be there. Nursing jobs will always be there.
Oh, yes,
Thank
I
you.
say that all the time. All right, guys, thank you so much and tune in for the next episode. Bye.